I have a special guest. The first time he's made an appearance on News Now in 2016.
Hey, how about that?
The Steve Krafft.
Kaboom.
And it's really exciting because we've been wasting 2015 talking about something that was happening the following year. But finally, it's 2016.
Well, some things have changed.
I feel like it's okay to talk about the election now.
I see you've got a phone case.
This?
Is that
I've had a phone case for a while.
That, I thought that was like you weren't using one for a while.
There was a period where I was being a rebel, but...
You were. It was scary.
Now I've had this case for a while, but other things have changed. It's a new year.
Yes, it is.
We have less GOP presidential candidates than we did a month ago.
I miss George Pataki, don't you? Lindsey Graham.
I do. Maybe I miss Lindsey Graham a little bit.
Well,
Pataki,
he was always good for a little quote here and there, a little soundbite.
Right,
something. Snappy. You know, he's a funny guy.
Right.
Didn't, you know.
Pataki didn't add anything to the conversation.
He really didn't. And it's funny because he was the governor of a big state for 3 terms.
Right, and people
forget that. He was a big shot on the national scene. And now people have forgotten completely outside New York, and maybe even in New York, who he is. He just got nowhere at all.
I think half the time people forgot he was running. There are probably few Americans out there that could actually name every single person trying to win that GOP
Even now,
nominee.
I frankly wonder why some of them are still doing it. Why is Carly Fiorina in this race?
Didn't you used to say that she was auditioning to be vice president?
Maybe, but I don't, watching her performance on the trail and given her difficulties in the private sector that are such political fodder against her, laying people off and losing money for her company, I just don't see her being on the ticket. I do think that she could be an energetic, campaigner for whoever becomes the candidate,
And she could be appointed.
Unless it's Donald
maybe?
Trump. She could.
Maybe.
Yeah, but she doesn't have to stay in the race for that.
Right.
Unless she just enjoys campaigning or just likes having her name out there or has already got a lot of cash squirreled away and doesn't really need to do anything else.
I think you just hit it. She likes having her name out there. I think she likes the attention and being known. I think every person running for president that doesn't normally have a national profile probably
people chase you around, and what's she going to do? Go back to California and chill out? I don't know. She seems like a very... obviously, she's a very smart person, and I would love to see if in real life, if you just talk to her one-on-one, if you get a different vibe than you get watching her in one of these rallies where she seems so brittle and so scripted and so tense and so tightly wound.
Well, Carly Fiorina does claim that she's Hillary Clinton's worst nightmare. See, this is Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
You may be familiar with her. She's holding a town hall of sorts.
Yes, she is.
But Hillary Clinton has now brought out her secret weapon. That was
that was a big move today, and that tells you how much she really, really needs him.
Bill Clinton got the chat room talking this morning.
Because she is not, to me, just as an observer of politicians, she's not a natural politician as a performer. He is.
Right.
He is. President Reagan was. President Obama is. They're just able to hold and draw a crowd. And I think George W. Bush could draw a crowd back in the day at one point. Maybe not now, but back then. But I don't sense that with her. I don't. So she needs some surrogates, and you can't get a better surrogate than Bill Clinton.
So you have Hillary Clinton using her husband to help her campaign.
Although that's risky in a way.
Elaborate.
Well, this is a very tightly researched campaign, and I'm sure they thought, well, if we bring Bill out this early, the big dog, as he's known, are we diminishing her? So once again, she seems to be in his shadow. Are we going to give people the feeling that a vote for her is a third term for Bill Clinton?
Right.
Are people going to have some bad associations with Bill Clinton, even though he has high approval ratings, that he's the guy who had the sex scandal? And so maybe it gives other people attack lines against her.
Do you think those are the same reasons Jeb doesn't use his brother to help him campaign?
No. I think that would be toxic for him.
I'm saying but the same
Partly,
reasons that people have a bad,
Well, people don't have a good, outside certain parts of the Republican Party, I think it's safe to say that former President George W. Bush's approval ratings are not good.
What about his dad? Calling up his dad.
Well, he's 90 years old.
There's that.
And he has to take it easy. But and also, I think that for Jeb Bush, he's been trying to get out from under his brother's shadow and legacy since the beginning, and he's been unable to do that. It's like dragging around a ball and chain for him in this campaign. Part of the reason he's at 3 or 4% is that people look at him and they go, "Oh, yeah, it's George W.'s brother." And that's not what you want.
Is it also just because people kind of lost interest in Jeb in the beginning after Trump came out and really put Jeb on blast? Because in the beginning, before Trump was even in the mix, a lot of people were talking about Jeb as the front runner.
He was the putative front runner.
Scott Walker may be rivaling him as the front runner.
You just never know until people get out there and you see if they have the ability to draw a crowd or not. I went to a Jeb Bush appearance at Four Peaks in Tempe, the brewery.
When he was here in town, yeah.
And he's just earnest and knows his stuff inside and out, and he's very well schooled in all these issues. But he just seemed, two things struck me. One, he was campaigning like a guy from 10 to 15 years ago, because he hasn't been in the Florida State House as the governor since 2007. He's been out of power a long time. And then he just seemed like a professor or, a guy who worked at a think tank or something like that. Smart, knowledgeable, but not a schmoozer, really, and not just a gifted politician. Some people have that and some people don't.
Mm-hmm. The X factor.
Yeah, he just doesn't have it in spades. He does not have it. In fact, a lot of these candidates don't have it.
Who has it?
Well, Trump has it, for better or for worse. He has that quality.
Does anyone else?
On the Republican side, no. I don't think so.
And on the Democrat side?
I think Bernie Sanders has a little bit of it for his crowd.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you see the parody on Saturday Night Live with Larry David, people get such a kick out of it.
Right.
Because he does seem to be that cranky, obstreperous,
right.
Guy with his hair's always messed up. And he's, so but he has a quality that draws a crowd. Part of it is his issues, and part of it is just him. He's an entertaining guy. And Trump is an entertaining guy. And, of course, a lot of people agree with him on some of these big issues, and a lot of people really think it would be bad if he were the nominee. So he's a lightning rod, but he has a gift for attracting attention, and you can't take your eyes off his rallies, and they're very entertaining. So those are all strong things. And so you see guys like Christie who are struggling to try to create some magic, So Christie's trying to go as far out there as he can to become the establishment alternative to Trump, and eventually hoping that other people in the mid-range of the party all kind of coalesce behind him. Now, the one guy who's the most perplexing figure in this race for me, and has been for weeks, is Marco Rubio.
It's interesting you bring him up. I was just about to bring him up because I saw a lower third on one of the cable networks earlier talking about how we're not here voting for entertainer-in-chief, I think was...
Is that what he said?
Some reference to entertainer-in-chief, and I think it was in reference to Donald Trump.
Uh-huh. Well, and Rubio said that?
I believe. I mean, I'm not. Don't quote me 100%, but I'm pretty sure I looked up at the screens back there, saw Marco Rubio on stage, and saw entertainer-in-chief in the lower third.
Well, here's what I don't get about Marco Rubio, and still in a lot of the metrics, he is still the favorite to win this nomination. Where is the groundswell of Rubio support? Where are the people who are just passionately for Marco? I never seem to see them. Is it an invisible army of people who are just going to materialize and vote for him in Iowa, caucus for him in Iowa, and vote for him in New Hampshire? I don't really sense that. I sense that he's a guy that ought to be the nominee by a lot of... If you were to take a computer program and put in all these inputs and spit out a candidate who ought to be the nominee, it would be him. A younger alternative to Hillary, an appealing guy on TV with a young, photogenic family, with an inspirational life story, with a lot of youthful vigor, a real good debater. He ought to be the guy, but what is going on? Why is he not turning people on? Part of it for conservatives is his stand on immigration. First he was for a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants, and he was for the DREAM Act. And then he realized that was a bad move in the Republican ranks, and he turned his back on it and ran the other way. But for a lot of conservatives, they remember him as the guy who was going to make that accommodation, the guy who was for the DREAM Act, the guy who was for amnesty, quote unquote. So that's poisonous. It's a poisonous thing that he carries around with him.
Right.
He's trying to run away from it and shed himself of it. So far, it hasn't really happened. And I think also when you see him in debates, he's very impressive, and he speaks in these real polished sound bites, but there's never anything past that. And when you watch him in some of his relatively rare campaign appearances, he's not really on the trail like these other guys. He's kind of in and out with this. He seems a little bit, he doesn't seem natural in these settings. He seems very rehearsed, and like you can't quite grasp him and you can't quite relate to him. Too polished, too perfect. A guy like Christie is sweating. He's in the middle of the people. He's very earthy. He's very blunt. He's entertaining to watch because he always looks like he's about to yell at somebody. He always looks like he's about to go off, like blow up. I've been in a couple of his things, and he's on a very short fuse. He has a volcanic temper. He's a smart guy, but you always think he's about to just blow up. So he's very entertaining for that reason, right?
Right. I mean, I assume you would say that if Trump wasn't in the race, Christie would have a lot more support than he does now. I think
you're right. Yeah, I think he would draw a lot of that kind of. Although his record as a governor of New Jersey is way to the left of a lot of today's Republicans. It's a fascinating race because nobody's really jumping out and taking this. Cruz has a lot of support among true believers and evangelicals, but I really question whether he can grow his base because he seems to be a deeply unlikable guy.
I can see that,
and that's a problem.
He's not a guy.
He's not a guy you would ever want to go and have a beer with, which George W. Bush famously was.
I think most people who have been president are people that you think you could probably hang out with.
A little bit.
I feel like even if you don't like President Obama's policies or anything he's done, you'd probably be okay with hanging out with him.
Well, he seems like a good guy. You can pick up basketball with him.
Yeah, exactly.
He seems to be up on music. He knows what
he's hip
rap
enough.
Stuff is. He's probably the hippest president we've ever had.
Right, and then there's George W. Bush, famous for people wanting to get a beer with him.
Yeah.
Then there's Bill Clinton, who everyone probably wants to hang out with.
But we've had guys like Richard Nixon who were completely...
That was a long time ago.
Reagan was a guy
Reagan seems like a guy people want to hang out with.
People like to hang out with Ronald Reagan for sure. And I think the first George Bush, people thought he was kind of a decent guy.
What I'm saying is it probably hasn't been since Nixon then.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Carter probably puzzled people, but he was so...
He looks so nice, though, and friendly.
He is. And you know what? I've met him. In real life, he's a super nice guy.
Right.
He's a very humble, he's probably the most humble person of that rank that I've ever run into. He's just a complete down-home regular guy. He still teaches Sunday school.
And he's cancer-free now, probably because he's such a good person.
Well, let's hope so. He's a nice guy. But something about Cruz is just, you might agree with him, and you might think he's right on these issues, but you got to watch these people for 4 years, and
maybe 8.
Yeah, in your bedroom when you're going to go to bed at night and you're watching a little bit of the news, and there he is. Do you want to look at that guy for 4 years?
And then they're going to enter your dreams because it's the last thing you saw before you fell asleep. And
of course, there's a lot of Republicans who say, I don't want to look at Hillary Clinton for 4 years. So it's an election where there are no obvious personalities that seem captivating.
Well, Donald Trump, though, is captivating to an audience.
He is captivating to an audience. He's the only one. And he's captivating in a very different way. Because he isn't a politician, lacks the polish. That's part of his appeal. You never know quite what he's going to do. It's like watching a reality show whenever he opens his mouth.
Well, that's...
Which is part of his appeal. Part of the reason as a reporter we love covering him, because he's just so entertaining.
Because it's not a predictable thing. You can go to a Trump rally, and yes, he'll say certain things that he'll always says, like, make America great again.
Yeah,
but
he sure does.
With every Trump rally, he's going to say something that's going to make headlines the next day.
Although
usually.
I do think, though, as these months have worn on, he's gotten more and more adept at this political game. I think that he's very carefully calculating now what he says and when he says it. And when he said, when he started attacking Bill Clinton, there were some very careful calibrations going on there. Because he knows that it's going to hurt him among certain groups. people in the middle of the political spectrum, people who like Bill Clinton. He's got a high approval rating. And some independent voters who still like Bill Clinton. But it's going to help him right now with Republicans who think of him as a guy who's too tight with the Clintons, right? So if he comes out and says that, Bill Clinton is a creep and a serial philanderer, it gets some street cred among Republicans he's going to need in the next couple months to really stamp his name on this race.
Right. And a couple months ago, there was another name that was right up there with Donald Trump that we're not really hearing much of anymore, and that's Ben Carson. I mean, we're hearing about him, but mostly because his aides are leaving his campaign.
It's all Ben's fault. It's Ben Carson's own fault, I think. Ben Carson obviously is a very brilliant guy and has an incredible life story, but he never seemed to take the time to learn what's going on in the world politically. You can't expect to be president and not be able to talk, with the possible exception of Donald Trump, and not be able to talk about specifics about what's going on in, say, Syria.
Right.
If you call Hamas hummus, as he did 3 times in his speech, I love hummus too. I love it with pine nuts. What do you like it with?
Oh, Sabra's pine nuts.
It's so good. Yeah.
Very good.
Right. Okay. Garlic. But I mean,
roasted red pepper also. They make that one.
Dude,
too.
I heard that and I was like, this guy's, he's just not ready.
Hummus. It's like tomato.
No, it's not.
I'm kidding.
This, come on. This was a joke. And so, I think there's a lot of kids who take honors history in high school who probably knew 3 times as much as this guy did about the American government and about foreign policy. And if you read a couple of papers every day, say the Wall Street Journal on the conservative side or the Weekly Standard on the conservative side, and maybe the New York Times on the center-left side, just read those 2 things every day.
You'll be informed enough.
You'll be pretty good.
Although they may not have
and
like
watch
a
Fox
pronouncer.
10 News.
I was going to say they might not have a pronouncer when you read Hamas in print.
There's no excuse for not knowing how to say Hamas.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Even I can do that. I mean, come on. The minute that came out, he was losing momentum before that. But the terror attacks in Paris and San Bernardino really have crystallized people's concerns. And if you cannot address them and reassure them and show that you have a plan, that you understand what's going on, you're going to be losing momentum. And he did. And a lot of that went to Trump. Now, Trump may not know a whole lot more, but I think people figure, well, he's done a lot of business in the Middle East, so he must know kind of what's going on over there. And then people kind of give him a pass because he's this larger-than-life
he's confident
character. And they just figure that he'll delegate someone. He'll delegate authority in the Middle East. Hey, come over here and take care of that Middle East stuff. All right, I'm giving you that job. Go wipe out ISIS. Okay, that's your job. So, he'll just kind of make stuff happen. So there's a sort of a magical realism I think supporters have when it comes to his campaign, where they just figure that one way or another he will wield this by dint of his personal magnetism and willpower. He will magically solve these problems that no one else can solve. So, but we're going to find out in about less than a month now if Trump is really for real or if he's kind of overblown and if there's just a lot of entertainment value but not a lot of real political chops. Because a fair number of people come to his rallies. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a lot of people, although I think a lot of them are the same people. But how many of those folks are actually going to get off their butts and vote?
In the snow, in the cold.
Right. And the rap on his campaign is that he's got a lot of engagement, but he doesn't have a lot of commitment, and he doesn't have a lot of organization among his supporters.
So what's your prediction come next month?
Well...
Is it too early to predict?
No. Might as well just go out there. I know they are trying to organize. He's now running TV commercials. I saw the first one. It's a very good commercial.
I think I have that clip. Since you brought it up.
I think he's probably going to come in second in Iowa and claim that as a victory in an evangelical state. And I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to tell you I think he's going to win in New Hampshire. And if he doesn't win in New Hampshire, that may be the end of his campaign.
Do you want to watch the Trump campaign ad?
Yeah, let's do it.
Since we're talking about it.
but Donald Trump calls it.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism. That's why he's calling for a temporary shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can figure out what's going on. He'll quickly cut the head off ISIS and take their oil. And he'll stop illegal immigration by building a wall on our southern border that Mexico will pay for.
We will make America great again.
I read an interesting thing today. You saw that image of those people. It looked like they were running to the wall. Mm-hmm. That supposedly is in Morocco, not Mexico.
Go ahead and pull this one up.
That wall, from what I read today in an article, is not in Mexico. That image of people running apparently to a border.
Let's find it.
It'll come.
Their oil, and he'll stop illegal immigration by building a wall on our southern border that Mexico will.
Yeah. It looks like ants.
Right here. This is in Morocco.
Yeah. That's what I read.
Huh.
I think that's funny. I would love to find out if that's actually anywhere. I have not seen a scene like that in Mexico in recent years at all. Not for many years. Maybe in the 80s in Tijuana there were images like that of people running into San Diego.
Really?
Yeah. That's been a very long time ago. I don't see anything like that at the border at all. I think that's funny. But who cares? For purposes of his ad, he's not saying in that picture that is Mexico. But he is saying that he's going to get the Mexican people to pay for the wall.
That he did.
Yeah. I'm just curious about all this. And frankly, if it is from Mexico, we have no idea when and where. It doesn't really matter for this campaign. The people who like Donald Trump, I think, are really going to like that ad.
Donald Trump fans in the chat room, do you guys like this ad? Why don't you tell us by typing in the chat
You know what
room?
I think is a very powerful part of that ad? And it's so Trumpian. He's going to cut the head off ISIS and take their oil.
too.
I mean, it's like every fantasy you get of a Clint Eastwood movie. He's just going to come in there, and just commandeer the oil fields and turn the spigots on for us. I mean, it's a very macho, typical ad that you'd expect from him. And graphically, I like that design where everything's kind of in a box with his name.
Right, this stuff right here. Let me move our lower third so they can
pretty
see
slick.
the Trump.
It's pretty slick.
Right there. Yeah, it goes like that.
Yeah, it's pretty
that.
slick. Yeah. Cut the head off of ISIS.
And take their oil,
And
too.
take their oil. Yeah. And a lot of black and white. You see a lot of black and white in these political commercials because it looks scary. And then juxtaposing President Obama and Hillary Clinton for the two terrorists in San Bernardino.
Oh, yeah, I see this and then that.
That.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I see Holy Harlot says the ad sucks. Green Corn says, I haven't even seen it, but it's Trump, so I like it. Green Corn, we just played it for you.
Yeah.
You must have seen it.
I think it's a really good ad. I mean, if the whole point is to get people to, kind of sign in as Trump people. It's very simple. It's very simple. Just like his entire campaign has been all bold capital letters and exclamation points. There's no fine print in the Donald Trump campaign.
Billy Phoenix says the ad is hitting issues that Americans are talking about. Trump does not pander. Happily is saying Trump has the Reagan Democrats, the independents. No other Republican on the ticket is going to bring them in. I will go back independent or stay home election day.
Wow. And that's a good point Happily is making about the Democrats who like Trump. There are plenty of Reagan Democrats, people who have voted Democratic in their adult life, but for whatever reason, now they're voting Republican. They haven't bothered to change their party registration. And there are a lot of people like that who are key Trump supporters. But will those people who are not Republican activists, they may have never done anything in the Republican Party, but they like Donald Trump, are they going to vote in a Republican primary? I don't know.
Joe Foley, what good would cutting the head off ISIS do? They are not structured in a way where cutting the head off would really affect them.
Why do English people worry about all these details? Come on, Joe. This is America. We just kind of do stuff. We don't worry about these details.
Then you have another Joe Buddha saying Saudi Arabia chops off more heads than ISIS.
Wow. Well, that was that was quite a
controversy.
turn of
this
events,
weekend.
don't you think? Wow. I don't even know where to start about that one.
You don't have to start if you don't want
I won't.
to. Yeah, I can play a story for you from Fox National instead.
But I was
guys.
reading about the historic
the tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
and more broadly the tension between Sunnis and Shia.
Right, in Iran predominantly Shia, Saudi Arabia
is
predominantly
Sunni. So this is, once again, we're lining up the two.
I want to say that those kind of divisions are more political than they are religious.
I don't know.
I want to make that statement. I'm going to make that statement that it is something that is brought up a lot in these areas where there's a lot of conflict. I guess all I'm saying is that you never hear the Sunnis taking on the Shias in like Florida or something.
Well,
or
not
like
in America.
the United States is
No.
what I mean. I don't know if it's so much like a thing between people as much as it is between regimes.
Maybe it's a combination of ethnic differences and then there's some very basic differences in religion between those two strains of the Muslim faith. So, and they've been at each other's throats for a long time, which is part of the reason that we have an ISIS to begin with. Mm-hmm. ISIS is the Sunni remnants of Iraq, the Ba'ath Party remnants of Saddam Hussein.
Interesting.
Because Hussein, who was a Sunni, was overthrown, and America...
Saddam Hussein. And America, there's this new government that came in, but the guy who came in was a Shiite. Yeah.
And he allegedly oppressed all the Sunnis, and so that grew into this virulent ISIS movement, which is now this cancerous growth in that part of the world of angry, disaffected Sunnis who feel marginalized.
Well, it's interesting that
by the Shia-installed government from us.
I find that peculiar that ISIS grew out of a Sunni group only because I think within the Muslim population, I think it's 90% Sunni and like 10% Shia. I don't know why I think of ISIS as this.
Well, at least in
worldwide,
Iraq.
though.
Well, maybe in Iraq. And worldwide, I don't know the numbers. But in Iraq, I think the Sunnis were...
The worldwide was like 90-10, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about Iraq. Maybe, I think it's probably more evenly distributed there. I'm not sure. Ron, Arizona, chiming in with his take on Trump, saying Trump is an executive and that's what we need, someone who can appoint the right people and make the right negotiations.
A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people are attracted to that part of his story, that he's a business guy and that he makes executive decisions and he's a decisive leader, and he's getting a lot of traction with that.
And Holy Harlot says Trump ads are more of a payoff to local media, in my opinion. He should make them more educational.
There are no educational political ads. They're ads.
Joe Buddha saying Democrats and Republicans are useless. Trump is the real deal. USA Secret History says Trump is just a character. Billy Phoenix saying exactly, Ron. Most know Trump will make big decisions without getting expert knowledge on issues.
People cut him a lot of slack. They just figure he'll make it happen. He gets a pass that no other candidate gets. It's amazing. That's part of his secret sauce, and that is that people just figure, he'll figure it out. He's an executive. He'll get someone in there who knows what he's doing or she's doing. And if Marco Rubio says that, everyone's going to go, come on, where's the substance here? But Trump can get up in these debates and say very little.
Who's Trump's VP? If Trump gets the nomination, who is his VP?
This is mighty, we're really thinking ahead of ourselves a little bit, obviously.
I'd like to know, though.
I think he's going to have to pick someone acceptable to the establishment of the GOP.
So Rubio, Cruz?
Well, all the establishment people have done nothing but dump on him. It could be Christie. It could be a guy like Kasich from Ohio.
Don't they have a lot of
It's not going to be
beef,
Bush.
though?
They do, but it's politics. That stuff can go away real quick. If the Republicans want to win, they want someone from a swing state.
Trump thinks, or Billy Phoenix and Happily both think it'll be Cruz.
I don't.
Joker thinks Cruz is too crazy to be VP. You don't. What do you think? Why?
Don't think he's what?
Why do you think it won't be Ted Cruz?
He's too similar ideologically on the spectrum to Trump. So you need somebody who's going to be more acceptable to the people who are kind of the center of the party, not just people who are from the.
And he won't go with Bush, as you mentioned. He won't go with Jeb.
No. He might pick. He might look for a leading Republican.
What about Rubio?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. He's from Florida. Mm-hmm. Rubio's a politician to the core. He might go along with it. The two of them haven't fought all that much,
right,
so far. So that's a possibility. And he's young. You might also look for a woman. I don't think it'll be Carly Fiorina, but maybe somebody who's in office right now who's doing a pretty good job, or at least is pretty highly regarded as an office holder. I don't know. It's a possibility.
Evan Walsh saying Cruz wins with the Christians. That's a big voting base.
It is, but they're going to vote Republican no matter what.
Right.
How about Shaved Fish says Ted Nugent for VP? That would be awesome.
VP Jesse Ventura.
That would be pretty good too. Alan West, he's the congressperson.
I'll get it though. What is it?
Uh-oh.
Something is being slacked to me.
It's Slack time.
Slack is messaging.
Yeah,
right?
It's like a message. It's a messaging thing.
Oh.
There's something going on right now. It's time to exit stage left.
Well, on that note, SK, always
Kaboom.
a pleasure. Thanks for giving us so much of your time. We'll talk more.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. You're doing a story on Obama's executive action.
Yes,
on
regarding guns. It's going to be very controversial.
Tune in. 5 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, guys.
Stay up
Channel
late.
10. Fox 10 Phoenix.